Hi guys, Luton here, and today we're going to be thinking a little bit about the new Battlelog and also the iPad and smartphone functionality which has been demonstrated on their most recent video. Now, this was something that obviously they'd shown previously. We knew it was going to be in the game with the commander mode, and so I'm just thinking a little bit about this today, and a lot of you had asked me sort of what my thoughts were about this new functionality, these new devices in the game. And you know, this video showed and they explained very well about how it's going to function and what you can expect to get out of it. And I think it's actually, it's a kind of double-edged sword. It's quite positive. And also don't forget, they also mentioned about missions coming into the game where you can set challenges amongst your friends, and also they're going to have global ranking leaderboards for certain things like being the best tank commander, or who knows what, it's probably going to be snipers. You know that knifing is going to be a feature in that as well. And also just want to say we're going to some Battlefield 4 footage right here. This footage is courtesy of Level Cap, obviously. If you've not seen Level Cap, you really should, and I'd be astonished if nobody hadn't, but go check out his channel, links in the notes below. So thinking about the tablet functionality in the game and how this is going to function. Now when I saw this at E3, the first thing that I thought was, yeah, I can actually see this working. I could definitely imagine you sort of getting a small stand or something so you have your tablet right next to you, and therefore it can actually function like they demonstrated as a kind of secondary screen, or you can just imagine having it very close to you in front and you can just tap and click on things and sort of work with that feature and the functionality being my keyword of this video today. But no, I really do think that it will work. I'd seen a few people sort of mention and say that they thought it was a little bit gimmicky. I would agree with that. I do think it is a little bit gimmicky. I'm not massively a fan of kind of tablet gaming as such. I'm a bit cynical when I hear people saying like it's going to be, you know, the future of gaming, etc, etc. I wouldn't say that it's not something that's still going to be, you know, featured in the future of gaming. For sure it's going to be an element, as it has been for a while now, but I just don't think it's going to sort of, you know, it's not going to supersede and take over anything. However, I really like the way that they have tried to sort of bring the kind of smartphone tablet aspect into the game, and also I love the fact that, as they demonstrate with the E3, that you can be a commander but not actually be in the game. So you could have your tablet somewhere, you could go around to somebody else's house, you could be on holiday, you know. I mean, when you go on holiday right now, you end up with like a portable gaming device or your phone or something, but imagine taking your tablet with you, and you know, maybe, you know how it is when you go on holiday, you're sitting around in like airports or whatever, you've got Wi-Fi there, you can use the Wi-Fi, hey, you've got your tablet with you, it weighs nothing, you can just get straight into the game and have something. Really great concept there. And then the fact that it also doubles up as like in-game functionality, and you know, you could have your map system right there. Again, really good. I think this is well something, you know, for me as a console player, that's definitely going to be hugely appealing to console players, the fact that you can have these multiple things. Now for PC players, I can still imagine that it would have some worth and it could have some value, and I did envisage, you know, you may have like a little stand, even something you could clip your sort of iPad with you right there, and you would sort of function with it at the same time, so you have like this kind of double system going on. I can totally see it working. I think we need to wait a little bit more and see how actually it will integrate. I mean, when they have the beta, it'll be interesting to see whether they put that kind of functionality in so that we can actually sort of get on board and test it out there, or whether it'll be something that'll be featured finally for the end of the game. I like the fact as well that you can set up different, you know, you can set up your customization, and the idea that maybe you're coming home, and for me, I have like a 30-minute commute every sort of day, minimum 30 minutes, so I'm often kind of on my way back home. I like the idea that I could just be on the train with my phone and I'm just sort of thinking about what I'm going to do this evening. I'm thinking, okay, you know, I'm going to try this out this evening. Or somebody suggests something to me on Twitter, they say, hey Luton, try this, check this. And I went, okay, yeah, I'll set that up tonight and I'll give that a go. So again, I like this kind of on-the-go thing, and they really, I think they've done and kind of researched the way people play and the way people work, because I'm sure you guys would agree, when you're playing, you often have multiple things. I often multitask when I'm doing multiple things, be that conversing with others or playing games. I often have multiple devices around me, and I think that's what DICE have really thought about. And I do actually remember when we were in Stockholm and I was speaking and chatting, we were just kind of, you know, having chats around the bars and stuff like that, and several of the guys that I spoke to, they kind of touched on this, and we were actually sort of talking about this idea of like, how do you play now? and the fact that, you know, I can't mention names, but specific people that I spoke to, and they were saying that, yeah, you know, when we were thinking about this was what we went into. The fact that we were looking at like how people's gaming has changed, the way that they game, their sort of system of the way that they play and set themselves up. So I think that's a great thing. I also think it is really kind of looking forward, you know, again, it just shows that they're trying to push things forward and really sort of step into the kind of future. They're not sort of going, and here's our next game. You know, they're trying out new things, and it's a bit of a risk, you know. You don't know whether it's really going to work, but at least they're taking a bit of a risk, you know. At least they're trying something else and saying, hey, we've had an idea with something here, let's try it, let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, you know, at least you tried. It might not be the best thing. Now the missions, let's just talk a little bit about the missions thing. The missions I don't feel so positive about. I already, and several people have echoed this, and I'm sure some of you will agree with me, that a lot of people felt like Battlefield 3 was more kind of stat based, a lot more stats in it involved. Now some people love stats, especially people within competitive love stats. If you're just a kind of more normal player, you're just looking for that kind of experience, you may feel that stats can often have a kind of counterproductive effect, that people end up worrying too much about stats. And this mission thing really goes on board with that. It kind of ties in, and I don't know if I like the idea of it, because you can imagine their example in the video was Tank Commander. Okay, who's the best at tanking? Well, what happens if you're in a game and people are just driving around in tanks racking for kills, and they're not really sort of paying attention to what necessarily is happening? Now, you know, you might say there's always the classic argument. I had this discussion this week about, you know, the best defense is a good offense. If some guy is destroying with a tank, therefore that team is going to be not doing very well. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is if he's in the wrong place because he's chasing kills, he can't be protecting what is necessary, and although he might have had a very strong start, it could end up sort of being, you know, an imbalanced thing, and it ends up sort of not working. It's a kind of false economy. So there's that kind of aspect, and I do worry that if they start putting these things in, I mean, people are already, I mean, think about in Battlefield 3, let's remember, okay, when everyone had those assignments to complete, do you remember how much people kind of whinged and complained about the assignments, and how they were going, oh, you know, people coming into the game and they're just trying to go for the assignments, you know, they're not sort of playing the game, they're just trying to rack assignments. So can you imagine if you have tons and tons of players and they're all trying to complete these missions, and they're not sort of thinking about what's actually going on in the game because they're so busy trying to, like, maybe be the best at knifing, or the best at sniping, or maybe, you know, who can get the most C4 kills. It's just going to become all about that and not about the actual game. So I think that's a legitimate worry. I can't imagine how it's going to be a positive thing. I don't like to be sort of too negative, but I don't think it's a good thing. I think that if anything, they should go the other way. They should try and sort of not have so much of that and focus more on the kind of gameplay. Now, for myself, having played other titles which focus more around the kind of gameplay aspect and people care less about the kind of kills and stats, the gameplay overall tends to be better. And when you go that other way, when you go with the kind of stats and kills and everything like that, it does negatively impact on the experience overall as a whole. And then this whole kind of global leaderboard thing, that ties in as well. Now you guys got to be remembering that many other games that focused on this kind of whole global ranking thing, it's so easy to abuse. And we've seen with other titles that devs often, they don't sort of put enough structure in place to kind of ensure that that's being moderated properly, you know, make sure people are not stat padding, make sure, you know, and how's that going to work? If you've got these global leaderboards, you think people aren't going to stat pad to get high up on those rankings? Seriously? We have seen this for years and years and years in online gaming, that people stat pad to get those crazy things, you know, insane accuracies that you could never get, insane KDs that you could never get. You don't think that people are going to do that when it comes into here? Seriously, you don't think they're going to do that? They're going to do that so much, so hard. They're going to do that all day long, and it's just going to, and then what could have been quite a nice thing ends up being completely invalidated because there's these kind of crazy people that just go insane for it, and they sort of, you know, well, abuse the rules really, you know, they don't sort of play it straight like everybody else. So the first part with the tablets and the smartphones, that kind of functionality, love that idea. I think it's really good. I think it's great that they're being positive and sort of trying to do new things. They're sort of trying to bring new elements into it. The missions and the kind of stat-based stuff, I'm really not sure about that. I really don't think I'm on board with that. I'd like to be proven wrong. I would like it to work well. I would like it to be just like an extra thing so that people are playing the game, and then that's like a little extra thing where it's kind of a bonus, like a side mission, and it doesn't sort of impact too much on the game. That's what I would like to see. That's what I would like to be, fingers crossed that that's how it turns out. But I do have a sneaking suspicion, like in my heart, that that is not how it's going to go, and I do feel like it possibly will be a negative thing. So I'd like to hear from you guys what you think about those two things. Are you excited about the tablet smartphone stuff? Do you think it's going to be really cool? Do you think it's positive? Or do you think it's just a bit of a gimmick and it won't really sort of benefit in terms of the actual gameplay itself at all? The missions and stat stuff, what do you feel about that? Are you sort of on board with me? Do you think it's not necessarily going to be really a good thing? Or do you think that actually it's positive? You know, it's sort of adding more to the game, it's adding extra things for people to do, and it's going to be, you know, a positive thing overall? Let me know below, guys, and we'll have some more Battlefield content coming for you very, very soon.